Greetings, everyone. Welcome to KMI ICSB KMI joint webinar. This is our November webinar. We will discuss transforming a small village into a popular tourism destination through an urban regeneration project in South Korea, the case of Gamcheon Culture Village in Busan, Korea. Today's speaker is Dr. So-young An, and Dr. L. Tarabishi and myself, Dr. Jung So, will be the moderators for today's webinar. I will talk more about Dr. An's bio in the later section. But Dr. So-young An is a senior researcher at Yonsei University, and she's a former assistant professor of tourism management at Surrey International Institute. And she earned her PhD in Recreation Park Tourism Sciences from Texas A&M University. And my name is Dr. Jung So, visiting assistant professor of Management and Tourism Studies at George Washington University. I also serve as a project director at Korean Management Institute at GWSB. So let me give a big shout outs to our affiliated organization, Institute. First of all, without GW School of Business support, we cannot host this webinar. So thank you very much for your support. I'd like to give a big shout out to our school first. And KMI, Korean Management Institute, is under the umbrella of Department of Management at GWSB. Without my colleagues and my chair's support at Department of Management, we cannot organize and host this event. So thank you very much. IITS is IITS, International Institute of Tourism Studies at GWSB, also our affiliate organization. Without support from IITS, we couldn't invite and organize this event. IITS also plays a role as a research center and an experiential learning center for tourism studies. So I strongly recommend you to check their website to get more resources on their research projects and to learn more about experiential learning through this center. And as an MTA faculty member, Master of Tourism Administration, I am looking forward to meeting our prospective students who will join us in the spring and in fall 2022. If you are interested in tourism studies and if you want to pursue your graduate degree in tourism management, feel free to check our website and feel free to check, email me. I will share my contact at the end of this introduction. Okay. All right. Before we are moving on to Dr. An's bio, I have one more housekeeping announcement. Right. The last housekeeping announcement. So I'd like to introduce the new course in Korean management. This course, MGT 6290, Trends in Korean Management, is developed and run by KMI, Korean Management Institute, and I'm the lead faculty. And this course will be offered in spring 2022, and we will cover various topics in Korean management, from history of Korea, early management techniques, unique management models that you can identify from multinational companies from South Korea like Samsung, Hyundai, Korea Airlines, CJ Group, Lotte, and others. And we will also cover very interesting topics related to the recent global cultural sensation of Korean pop culture, such as Squid Game, BTS, and K-pop industry, and any other relevant business innovations in the entertainment industry in South Korea. And of course, we will also talk about sustainability based on sustainable development goals suggested by United Nations. So all those various topics will be covered by 3 faculty members. I'll be the lead faculty and the instructor of this course, and KMI Executive Director and Deputy Chair of Department of Management, Dr. El Tarabishi, will be the faculty who will support this course. And our course advisor, Dr. Ki-Chun Kim, professor of Catholic University of South Korea, will be the advisor who will connect our students with the corporations in South Korea and government agencies of South Korea too. So please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions about this course, and I look forward to meeting you in this course in the spring 2022. Dr. Soyoung An, my former colleague and also a good friend of mine, she will be the speaker of today's webinar. She's currently working as senior researcher at the Department of Sports Industry Studies at Yonsei University, South Korea. She's a former assistant professor at Surrey International Institute in Dongbei University of Finance and Economics. And as I mentioned earlier, she earned her PhD in tourism studies, recreation park and tourism studies, tourism sciences at Texas A&M University. Today, we'll focus on 3 topics. First, urban regeneration through tourism in South Korea. Second, over-tourism issues, transforming the host-guest relationship, and best practices and ongoing issues, the case of Gamcheon Culture Village, Busan, Korea. So, Dr. An, I'll pass it on to you. Please take it away, and the floor is yours. Let me stop sharing my screen.
Okay, thank you, Dr. So. So now I can share my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is it clear? All right. Thank you, everyone. Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking time to attend my presentation. Today, I'd like to introduce a successful example of urban generation project that turned a small village into a popular tourism destination, the case of Gamcheon Culture Village. The Gamcheon is the name of this village. So throughout the presentation, I'll be talking about the background information of this village, and then I'll also introduce some of the strategies that the government officials use to redevelop this village. And also I will talk about some of the issues that this village is dealing with. And at last, I will talk about some of the solutions that the local people and the government officials use to solve those issues. So these are the main contents that I'm going to talk about throughout the presentation. Before starting the presentation, let me introduce briefly about myself. My name is Soyoung An, and I got my PhD from Recreation Park and Tourism Sciences at the Texas A&M University. And I used to teach tourism-related courses at the University of Surrey in China as an assistant professor from 2016 for about 5 years. And now I'm a senior researcher at Yonsei University. So first thing first, let me talk about where this village is located in. So this is the map of South Korea. And this Gamcheon Culture Village is located in Busan. And this is located in southeastern area of South Korea. It's about 5 hours drive from the capital city. which is Seoul. So I'm from Busan, where is the second biggest city. So I'm really familiar with this city. The history of Kamcheon village is very interesting because Kamcheon village is built in 1950 by the refugees during the Korean War. And during the refugees fled from the north to Busan, the south area. And as the war progressed, many people started to move to Busan, which was one of the few cities less affected by the war. So after the Korean War, it became a safe town for the refugees. So this is how the village looked like when the refugees moved down to Busan. So as the refugees flocked, the houses were built one by one along the ridge behind the houses located under the mountains. And as you can see in this picture, houses were densely built up the mountains. And this is before the project implemented. And it looks kind of old and it's not very organized well. And due to the background, the history, the village faced persistent poverty and the quality of the living conditions was not good. So to save this village from the poverty and increase the quality of the living for the local residents, the government decides to work on a project. The name of the project is Kamcheon Village Art Project. And it started in 2009 by the Ministry of Culture, Sports, and Tourism. So a lot of the local artists got together to revamp the area and made an incredible community. And also art vibes were added to the street and houses and a lot of the shops in Kamcheon and creating these beautiful and colorful tourism attractions. So since the village is perched on the hillside of the Busan and facing the sea, as you saw the map of the Busan is port city. So this village is facing the sea, and the vibrant neighborhood has earned itself the nickname of Santorini of South Korea. Okay, so the area of Kamcheon Culture Village is 0.62 square kilometer, which is really small village, right? And the population is about 20,000 in 1995, but it decreased to about 7,000 in 2018. And the average age of the local resident is in their 50s. And they do have the operation hours of this village. And it opened at 9 a.m. and it closed at 6 p.m. from March to November. And it opened at 9 and it closed at 5 p.m. From December to February. Yeah, so this is the entrance of the cultural village. When you look at the right side at the bottom, it's marked with a red circle. This is where the information center is located at. So when you get into this information center, you can buy a detailed map for about $2. This detailed map indicates all the places of the interest. For example, the cafe, restaurants, art galleries, and museums. So everything is shown in this map. And also this map shows recommended route to choose from route A to route C. And the route A takes about 40 minutes tour. And the route C, that takes about 2 hours to look around. And also they made this map more fun as the tourists can take, they can get 12 stamps at designated places throughout the routes. So you see the stamps right on the right side. So these are the 12 stamp zones. So tourists can visit each single place. And this is an artistic place, has a different meanings, and they can get a stamp after finishing the tour. And if you get a 6th stamp, you can get a free postcard. And if you get 12 stamps, then you can get a 2 postcard for free. So this kind of strategy to let the tourists participate more actively during the tour, rather than just look, skim the arts and take a photo and leave. But they wanted to make them participate more. Okay, so this is another famous attraction in the village. The cultural village, this Kamcheon Cultural Village, is famous, well known for the night view. And as I said before, it is really densely built. And imagine that one house, each of one house turn on the light at night, and it becomes really incredible, beautiful view. So the tourists, people visit this village at night. But that makes a problem. And I will talk about this later in the following slides. But the night view is one of the famous things to see. And also the government officials, they put up some kind of signage here. And the signage gives information of directions and the information about each attraction in this village. And all of this signage written in both Korean and English as well. Before the COVID-19 hit, about half of the visitors were international tourists. So providing all of the information in English is really important. Okay, so so far I talked about some of the background information of this village, and now I'm gonna talk about how the government officials redeveloped this place, okay, and provide some of the examples. So this is exactly how the village will look like. It's built on the mountains, right? And the key tool that they revamp the area is using the art. The art painted in 2009, and when the art project began, a lot of the murals were painted on the wall, and a lot of the art sculptures were built in this village. And I'll share some examples. So this is the painting, this is the murals on the wall, and there are sculptures. So the tourists, they love to take a photo with this like single items. And then more examples. So basically, all of the houses, the walls are painted with the murals and the little sculptures. It's really fun to look at because the items are different with different color, different shapes, different meanings. It's really fun to discover. And just because this village is located on the hillside, on the mountain, there are a lot of the stairs. So even these stairs are painted with the color, different shapes, different colors, that makes this village even more colorful. Okay, this is the statue of the Little Prince. This is the most popular photo zone. So if you visit this village, you can see the long lane of the visitors want to take a photo with this Little Prince and the fox. So what they do is they take a photo in between the Little Prince and the fox and gaze the colorful view of the village. So this is the most popular attraction. Okay, another one. I recently found this mural when I visited the Kamcheon. So this is a mural of a BTS. I don't know how many of you guys know this K-pop star. And the man on the left side, his name is Jungkook, and the Jimin, the next. And the reason that they are here as a mural is that they are from Busan. where the Kantan village is located. So as I said before, about half of the visitors are international tourists. So this single mural itself can be a attraction to attract a lot of the visitors who love BTS. So you can see a lot of the tourists taking photo with this mural because they love this K-pop star. Okay, another attraction is named Stairs to See Stars. This village is full of the steps, the stairs, and the longest is known as the Stairs to See Stars. The name came as 148 steps are steep and people get dizzy when see stars, and they see stars when climbing them, and especially when carrying heavy loads. And as you can see in the picture, there are the narrow laneways. That means that no car can traverse the neighborhood, which means that all delivery must be done on foot. And imagine that you carry either a small package or a piece of heavy furniture. You can imagine that how hard it will be, right? So no car, so everything must be done on foot. Another attraction. So it's called the fish swimming a lot through the LA, and these wooden fish were created to pay tribute to the women of Kamchan. So the women living in this village, what they did is they took care of their family by selling the fish every day to the biggest market named Chagachi. And so this is kind of the symbol of the women who took care of their family throughout their whole life. And in this village, you can see that there are a lot of the stores. It used to be less than 10, but with the popularity, more stores started to open, and now there are about 40 stores in this village. Some are related to tourism, for example, souvenir stores, cafe, and restaurants, but also there are business not related to tourism. For example, the laundry, as you can see in the picture, is on the right side. And this is an example of the store. So the tourists can buy the traditional handcrafts, and even they can make it. And there is a little museum, and the museum has over 70 pieces of the household items that are donated by the local residents. And this museum, you can see the history of this Kamchan cultural village, and they provide all of the information with the specific pictures. And there are restaurants and cafes. Tourists love to eat, right? And on the first picture, this is the restaurant where you can buy the fish cake. Since Busan is located in the port by the sea, the fish cake is well-known food, and it's like a must-eat food. So a lot of tourists coming to Busan, they first visit this restaurant to eat fish cake. And there are also cafes and restaurants decorated with art, beautiful art, and they can enjoy their meals with a beautiful scenery, with a good view. So far I've talked about the background of this culture village, as well as some of well-known attractions, right? And from now on, I'm going to talk more details about the project, the goal of the project, and the strategies and some of the issues they're facing. Okay, so when the government decides to work on this project, they set up the goal. They wanted to redevelop this site, but they wanted to keep the originality. Okay, rather than breaking down all of the houses, they try to just keep the authenticity. I'm going to talk about it later on more. in the following slide. And they wanted to build a village that is good for the local residents. If the local residents are happy with what they have, then they would be nice to the tourists, right? And they would have positive attitude toward the tourism industry. So they wanted to make the tourists participate in this project as well. So these are the goals for the project. Then let me talk about how they make this village as a tourism destination. The first strategy that they used was keeping the authenticity. This village has a long history, right? This is the town for refugees. And so they didn't, the government officials, they didn't want to change how it looked. They want to keep the original house and atmosphere as it was. But what they did is they kind of fixed the house if that was broken pieces of the place, but they repainted it and they put the arts and the murals. So they keep the authenticity. And I liked this idea. The second strategy that they used was they created a job for the local residents. So when you visit the cafe, who do you see? So a lot of the staffs are young people, right? But when you visit here, you will be kind of surprised because all the staffs making the coffee is in their 50 or 60. I was surprised too. And the government officials, they give the special training for the local people to teach how to make a coffee and how to bake the bread. So doing so, the local people can involve in tourism business. And when I visited this place and I had a time to interview with the local people working in this cafe, and this lady says that before the tourism came in this village, they thought that they are old and they don't have a job, but they are poor and their life is end. So they consider themselves as like a useless. But after the tourism brought in this village and they have a job like that and talking to the strangers every day, now they feel like that they are alive. They have a new life and they are making money and they can talk to the tourists every day. It's like having new life and they really love, they are really satisfied with the tourism. So this is another strategy that the governments came up with. The next one, give the benefit for the locals. So what they did was the local residents, they made the village councils with 100 members of the local people. So they run the cafes and restaurants all together. So some restaurants and cafes are run by the locals rather than the outsiders. And also they do have the guest house. Okay. So that the benefits that the benefits that they get remains within the community rather than going out from the village. So another one is maximizing the tourist participation. This is an art-based village. So sometimes the tourists visit here and look at the mural sculptures, take a photo with the sculptures and leave. Doing so, the local people, they won't be able to have much benefits, right? The benefit could come from the cafe restaurant maybe, but they wanted to make more profits and by providing a higher level of the tourist satisfaction. So they came up with some kind of activity. What they do is that tourists can participate in the specific activity such as wood engraving and nature dyeing, pottery, caricature, and they can do this activity with the local residents and the artists living in this community. So from this activity that local people can make money, right? And also tourists can make the memorable experiences. The last strategy is that residents' active involvement. The local people, they become volunteers for the tourists. So when the tourists visit here, if they get lost or if they need information, they ask the local people. So the local people provide all of the information and they give the directions and they can give the answer to the tourists. So their role is working as volunteers. And also, this is for kind of relatively young residents. They do repair the houses by themselves. And also, there are the community leaders, and they do have regular meetings with district government officials, and they discuss about the issues that they have and try to find the solutions and come up with idea how to promote this village. So they do have regular meeting and better communications. Okay, now let me talk about some of the issues that this village is dealing with. As I said before, this house is densely built, right? And the tourists walk in between the houses through these narrow alleys. And see, this narrow alleys. And imagine that 100 of the tourists being at the same time at the place. Can you imagine how loud it will be? So the local people living in these houses, they can suffer from the noise. And also, this kind of like old way, kind of traditional way of the locals to dry their laundry. So what they do is they put their laundry on the rooftop of their house or backyard. But tourists, from their perspective, oh, this is the way that local people is living. So they take a photo of it. But for the perspective of the local people, they don't want the other tourists to see their laundry, because they feel like they are animals in the zoo. So this is the kind of issue of the privacy. And I kind of mentioned that it has really beautiful night view, right? And even though the store and shops are closed by 6 p.m., but still people come in this village to see the view at night. And even they drink alcohol, this village, and make a noise. It happens at midnight as well. But there's no like a security guard control the number of the visitors here. So it becomes another issue. The next issue, the next problem is tourification. And this chart shows the number of the tourists, right? And as you can see here, the number of tourists visiting this village has been rapidly increasing. And it was 2.5 million in 2018. So with the popularity, a lot of tourists coming to visit this village. However, look at this chart. It shows the number of the local residents. With the time, the number of the local residents going down, decreasing, right? And about 400 residents left the village every year. And it became a paradoxical situation where the residents began to complain of the damage caused by the tourists. Some people who get benefits from the tourism, they have a favorable attitude toward the visitors, but the local residents were nothing to do with the tourism. They have a lot of anger, and their attitude is so negative toward the tourism. So they make a lot of the complaints. For example, with the popularity, there are a lot of the shops open, right? And since then, the land price increased, and that brings negative effects on the local business that has nothing to do with the tourism. For example, the shops, the size of 2023 square meter, it was about $90,000 in 2014, but it increased to 150,000 in 2020, which means that about $60,000 increase within 4 years. And also house rent per month jumped from 300 to 450 within 2 years. And there are local residents who pay rent monthly. And just because it became a famous tourism destination, that they pay more for their rent. And it happened to the local people who runs the business that's nothing to do with the tourism. For example, the laundry shops, they pay $300 every month, but just because it became a tourism destination, they have to pay almost $500 every month, but they don't get any benefit from the tourism. So the land price going up, that became another big issue in this village. And another issue is that, as I said before, with the popularity of this village, the new restaurant and the cafe open, and the problem is that those cafes run by outsiders. Some are run by the local, but still about half of the restaurant and the cafes run by the outsiders, which means that still local people, they don't get much benefits. So to solve those kind of problem, the issues, the local residents and also the government officials, they came up with some kind of idea to solve those issues. The first one is that they put the signage everywhere saying that this is a residential area, so please be quiet. So you can see the signage in the first picture. And also they paved the alley with the color, brown color, that indicates that this is tour routes. If the allays are not colored with a brown, that means they do not enter. This is a residential area. So tourists can only go through the alley with the brown colored. So that indicates, that mark indicates that this is a tour route, not display. So another solution is that they build independent profit structure. That is that the village, the community built the village councils with a member of about 100 local residents, and they operate joint stores, including cafe, restaurant, parking lot, guest house, and art shops. And they have the money, they have profits, and those profits from those joint stores, they are used for the resident labor fees and the management expenses, and also they accumulate as the residents' welfare funds. So if the residents, they are involved in the tourism businesses, then they can get money, right? They can get the profits, but there are still the local residents who are nothing to do with the tourism, but they don't get any benefit at all, but they have to suffer from the over tourism. So in order to make all of the local residents happy and they get benefits, they use these profits also for the welfare of the locals. As an example, this village is really small, right? And they didn't have any spa. And especially kind of elderly people, they love doing the spa. So what they did was they had to take the bus to go to spa to the next village. So using these welfare funds, they build this spa in this village, so they don't have to take a bus to go other village, so they can use it at their convenience. And also, the welfare funds used for supporting the cost of the installing gas or sewage supplying pipes. And also, the local residents, they have to take this bus. This is really a small bus to go to the downtown or to visit other villages. But it gets busier during the weekends, since the other tourists also take this bus to get into the village. So there are a lot of times the local people had to miss the bus and wait for the next bus comes. It's really inconvenient for the locals. So they kind of made a complaint to the local officials, and they decided to increase the interval between the villages for the local residents. And also there is a bus only for the local residents. Tourists cannot take that bus. That bus is only for the residents, so that tourists cannot miss bus. They can take it at their convenience. In this way, the local residents are really happy with some of the infrastructures built by the governments. And this is kind of the solution for the privacy. When the tourists visit this village, everything seems new to them. And when they see the window of the house is open, what they do is they put their head into the window and look at the room inside, which considered very rude, and it violates the privacy of the residents. So to protect the privacy of the local residents, the government officials, they put kind of fence over the window. And another solution is that in this village, convenience stores and franchise are not allowed, because the profits from the convenience stores and the franchise, usually it goes to the headquarters of the company. It doesn't remain within the community. So the business license are granted only the form of the village company or individual self-employed businesses, not franchise. Okay, to protect the community financial flows. Okay, so today I talked about an example, the successful example of the urban generation project, right? And it can be considered as one of the successful urban generation project, because the resident, the artists, and also the local governments, they work together to develop a system of the democratic governance by using art and culture as the key tool in the redevelopment process. So we can say that it was successful because the project resulted in an improved quality of the life for the locals, and it created a job for the locals. And when you interview with the local people, they say over 8,000 local residents say that their quality of the living infrastructure is improved, and over 200 people found a job from this project. So they are really happy. But still, there are ongoing issues. For example, the noise and the privacy issue is still ongoing the issue, and they try to find the solutions, but it's not really hard and the control whole like a flow of the visitors, especially during the night, for example, midnight. But even though there are ongoing issues, but still this village transformed really kind of like poor and inferior village into one of the famous tourism attractions in Busan. So this is the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening, and I appreciate if you have any questions and comments on my presentation.
Thank you so much for your great presentation, Dr. An. Could you stop sharing your slides?
Okay.
We can have more interactivity with our audience and between us too. So as we could see from Dr. An's presentation, this project and the case study was very fascinating because the local government led this project to transform refugee, traditionally known as a refugee camp, into a small village tourism destination, and it has become one of the most popular tourism attractions in Busan City, South Korea. And at the same time, as Dr. An touched on, and also one of our attendees mentioned in the chat, the gentrification issues and the backlashes from the local community because of many newly created problems based on this project was another ongoing issue, which is related to the very classic and long-held controversy in host and guest relationship, right? We're learning this topic in the first semester of our graduate or PhD semester years, right? In any tourism programs in the world, right? The relationship between host and guest, the conflict between host and guest. So I think Dr. An already covered these issues, but I'd like to share the question in the chat briefly. So Ms. Jusun Park, who is our MBA student, also a government official at Seoul Metropolitan Government. She, in the past, one of her past projects was the tourism promotion, tourism development in Seoul Metropolitan Government. So she shared this question. Aren't there conflicts between supporters and opponents of this project? Probably supporters are from the private sector, who is looking for profits out of this project. Also, the government, local government, wants to regenerate or transform the community or beautify the community for their own purposes. And probably the opponents will be mainly from the local communities. So were there any conflicts? Would you like to, obviously there was a conflict from your presentation. And if you can elaborate on these conflict issues, this could be a good answer to this question. And she also added, as far as I know, there are people who are against some urban regeneration project due to financial or housing issues. So Dr. An, what's your reaction to this question?
Okay, so for the first question, that is kind of relationship between the stakeholders and the government. But when they started to work on this project, and this is like art-based, and a lot of the artists, they kind of donated their talents. So it's not like they did it for the profits. It's not like the government built new fancy houses or stores, but everything was based on the art and by the artist. And they wanted to participate just because they have a talent, and they wanted to do something good for making a better village. So it's not more like making the profits, as far as I know. So it's more like the tension between the local people and the tourists, yes,
okay.
rather than the stakeholders. And for the second question,
there was an additional comment to give more context of this question. So probably this comment that Ms. Park mentioned is relevant to my question. So my original question, related to the project itself is about the leaders of this project. So let's put the conflicts issues aside. Let's focus on who led this project in the first place. Is it from the private sector, companies, entrepreneurs, or the government?
It's the government.
And so
those it's district size of the government. It's not like a national.
Right, the local Busan metropolitan.
Yes, right, yes.
Supporter or funder or leader of this project, right? And so all these ideas, like including 12 stems, gamification of
right, yes, that is the theory, yes.
All those probably products or services in tourism were originally suggested by the government, or is it something else, some other parties or stakeholders were involved to develop these brilliant ideas, creative ideas?
I really don't know who came up with that idea, but I don't know. I assume that
this is mainly led by government, right? Local
yes,
government.
I think so. Yes.
Good, good. Is there any other questions from the floor? You can raise your hand. Use the option. And Ms. Park, who asked a question earlier, mentioned that the case in Seoul City that created huge conflict between residents and government was the Changsindong project in Jongno-gu. Changsindong is one of the financially marginalized area in Jongno-gu. Jongno-gu is quite affluent district in Seoul, but Changsindong is the neighborhood in Jongno district, but a bit unfairly financially marginalized areas, which is not has not get benefited from the recent economic growth in Jongno district and Seoul City. So maybe that gives another context to this issue, I guess. And it wasn't a question, but one of my students, Brahm, mentioned a similar case from Indonesia, East Java, Indonesia. It has similar, it is called Color Village, and especially from the photos you shared, and Brahm mentioned this case when you are explaining all those cases, night view photo Joan from the case. And I don't want to nitpick of this project, urban regeneration project that has a good cause, but while going through and listening to your presentation, I'd like to ask this question on the photo zone of Little Prince. And as for speaking of authenticity of tourism product in one local area or local destination, is it suitable for Busan or Kamcheon village? So Little Prince, which is the novel from France, is it quite relevant to Kamcheon Village? Or
Yeah, well, exactly what I thought when I visited that place. I was thinking when I look at the statue of the little prince and the fox, okay, so this is the refugee town and that has culture and history. And why the little prince and the fox is here and which is the most popular photo zone. But who knows?
Is there any cultural connection? If the two cities, I don't know exactly what city is the setting of this novel, but Busan and this city, which is the setting of this Little Prince, are like a sister cities. Is there any story behind this photo zone?
Well, I have no idea. I
Right.
think this is like art based, and they wanted to bring some of the like idea how we can what kind of art sculptures or the noodles that we can like build in to capture the tourist like attention. So like Little Prince and Fox is one of the well-known story. So that's why
Like
they
universally accepted
yes.
content to attract more international visitors to the destination, right?
Yeah,
Probably.
I think so. Considering the number of the international tourists visiting to this
Right.
village, that makes sense, yes.
But still, storytelling and marketing wise, if we can, have more local oriented and authentic content or the product, something from Busan would be more interesting, and we can educate our visitors who are not originally from Busan area, also not very familiar with the story. That could be one suggestion too. And
Yes.
yeah. Right. Is there any other questions from the floor? Okay, so I want Dr. An to reiterate one of the most important takeaways of today's lecture, which were the those solutions that you suggested or that you did research on the addressing the conflicts between residents and the tourist. So I remember one thing out of the list that you shared, those signboards. Local people are living here. Please be respectful or be quiet or do not create any noise, something like that. So can you walk us through one more time all those solutions developed by the local government or the stakeholders in this area?
So you are saying that you want to go through the solution part again?
Just give us a highlight. Give us a highlight or the signboards was one of them, right?
Right. Let me share my screen
Yes.
again. Okay. So the local people, yeah, they have issues related to their privacy. So because of the over tourism, so many tourists coming in at the same time at the same place, they make noise. And so to prevent that, the local governments, they put this kind of like warning signage saying that please be quiet, this is residential area. But we know that, right? As a tourist, we look at the signage, but it doesn't mean that we don't talk, we are silent. No. So when you talk about the effect of putting in this signage, it's not really significant. So, and also they paved this lane with the color, right? That indicates that, okay, this route is for the tour. You can go if you're a tourist, but if it's not colored with the brown, that means that you're not allowed to go because this is a residential area. So tourists can only tour the lane colored with the brown. Okay. And then, so it's really hard to leave only for getting funds from the government. So what they
job
did,
creation was another one, right? Job creation.
Yes, and also governments want the local people to make a living for by themselves as an independent group. So what they did was they made a team of the community, the leaders, and they made the village councils, and they operate joint stores, cafe, restaurants, and then they get the benefit right? And they spend this benefit for the labor fees and the management expenses. Sometimes they have to repair their houses or the cafe, right? And also they save this profits for the welfare funds for the people, for the local people. It doesn't matter whether they are engaged in the tourism businesses or not. It's for the whole local community.
Right. So first you have like a leadership council or steering committee from the local area, and through this committee or council, government tries to reconcile the conflicts between the local area and the tourist, and try to create a better communication system. Also, let the local governments, local neighborhoods or local people get benefited from this tourism products or activities, through this committee or their channel, right? Okay.
Yes,
good.
And yeah, this is a really good idea, having the village councils and they run the joint store by themselves. In this way, they make their own profits rather than relying on the financial fund from the government. Yep. So if the local residents who are nothing to do with tourism business, they feel unfair because they have to deal with all of the issues brought by the tourism, right? So to feel fair or to give more benefits for the locals who are not involved in tourism businesses, they build new infrastructures. For example, this public spa, and also they means the government officials, they provide the garbage bag. Like we have to buy the garbage bags, right? So even it's a little money, but they still have to pay for it. But the government's officials, they provide the free garbage bags. And also I didn't mention here, but also what they do is for the locals who have kind of difficulty moving around, they visit the local people and then they clean the house and then they take care of the laundry for them. So this is another service for the locals who are not involved in tourism.
That's like our next research topic, Dr. An. We are about to end this session, but Dr. An is also a specialist in DEI issues in tourism, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And Dr. An and I recently published an article at a peer-reviewed journal about tourists with disabilities and how to improve service quality for handicapped tourists. So that's kind of her area too. And Kamcheon Village and Busan city government already implemented their initiatives to solve this issue created in this local village. Right. Thank you so much.
Yep. Want me to go to other solution? This is the last one though.
Yes, let's cover it.
Okay, so this is the first one is related to the privacy issues, and what the tourists do is when they visit this village, they feel like they are in the other world. So what they do is if the window is open, they put their head into the window and look around the house, which is really rude, right? And the local people, they are so against with
Of
that
course,
behavior. Yes, so they kind of complain it to the local governments, and they put the fence over the window to protect the privacy of the local people. And another thing is, when I visit this village, I couldn't see any convenience store, like a franchise convenience store
right.
or franchise restaurant or cafe. When you visit a tourism destination, the first thing that you notice is a franchise convenience store or franchise restaurant, right? But not this village, because they control the profit flow. If there are convenience stores, franchise stores, they make a lot of money, and the money goes out.
Those large
to the
corporations or companies
Right.
are the only beneficiary of those franchises, and to protect and support local small and medium-sized enterprises, this could be a great solution to support them financially too.
Right.
Oh, these are all brilliant ideas. Thank you so much for re-emphasizing because of my request, Dr. An.
No worries. That's okay.
This gives us a chance to finish this session webinar at a high note, I think. So, right. I think there are no more questions from the floor. Thank you, everyone, to join us tonight or this morning. Dr. An, thank you so much for your great presentation. And KMI and ICSB and GW, we are looking forward to our collaboration moving forward. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day. Have a happy Thanksgiving holiday. I hope you guys have a great final exam preparation period too. And Dr. An, once again, thank you so much. And I will see everyone in the next meeting, next webinar in December. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lastly, thank you, Mr. Hoon Kim, for your great service as a translator. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Good night.